Welcome to Starbound. My name is General G, and I'll be your narrator today. Nearly 500 supporters get early access to our stories, including brand new episodes of Sunspire Academy and Freyr and Remeke. If you'd like to unlock early access and support new episodes in future series, tap Join below to become a Starbound member. Now, let's get into today's story. High Overseer Galrin Veth stood in his viewing chamber, 8 feet of obsidian skin tradition watching the latest bout through narrowed eyes. Below, a Thraxian warrior dismembered his opponent with brutal skill. Boring, predictable, proper.
"Sir,"
his assistant chirped.
"the Earth delegation has arrived."
Galrin's jaw plates clicked in amusement. Earth. The cosmic punchline. A planet so backwards they'd only achieved fusion power last week and still thought digital watches were pretty neat. The invitation had been a joke, a way to humble the newcomers by showing them what real Death Worlders looked like. "Send them to Arena 7, he ordered. "The one with the acid pools. Let's make this quick." "Yeehaw!" The battle cry echoed through Arena 7 as Brick, the Beef Sampson, 6'4" of spray-painted muscle and questionable life choices, launched himself from the top rope he'd somehow jury-rigged from alien intestinal parasites. His opponent, a Garathian skull render with more teeth than a hardware store, barely had time to register confusion before 300 pounds of pure American beef landed on its thorax in a flying elbow drop that would have made Macho Man Randy Savage weep tears of joy. "That's for democracy!" Brick roared, grabbing 2 of the alien's arms. "And this," he spun, building momentum, "is for the last season of Game of Thrones!" The suplex that followed didn't just break physics, it took physics out back, shot it in the knee, and buried it in a shallow grave. The skull renderer's head went through the arena floor with a sound like God's own thunder. "Match!" the automated referee announced. "Victor, Earth! Disqualification, unsanctioned pre-bell aggression!" Brick stood over his twitching opponent, flexing muscles that had their own zip codes. "Pre-bell? Brother, where I come from, the bell's just a suggestion!" In the viewing chamber, Galrin's assistant made a sound like a deflating balloon.
"Sir, they won."
"On a technicality," Galrin snarled. "Send in the next human. Let's see how their holy warrior fares against—" The screaming started before he could finish. Sister Maria Chains had not taken a vow of silence. This was unfortunate for everyone within a 3-mile radius.
"The power of Christ compels you,"
she shrieked, wrapping her rosary-linked brass knuckles around the throat of a void-spawned berserker.
"The power of Christ compels you to tap out."
The berserker, a creature that fed on fear and darkness, had made the tactical error of trying to intimidate someone who'd spent 6 years teaching middle school before joining the church. Its psychic assault bounced off her mind like spitballs off a brick wall.
"You think you know my darkness?"
Maria yanked the chain tighter.
"I've seen 13-year-olds discover Axe body spray. I've survived church potlucks where Martha brought her famous tuna surprise. I have stared into the abyss of Vacation Bible School."
She produced a bottle of something from her tactical habit. The label read, "Holy Water," in Sharpie over what was clearly a Molotov cocktail.
"Let us pray,"
she said, lighting the rag.
"Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy—" "Burn in righteous flame, you tentacled bastard!"
The explosion registered on seismographs 3 systems away. When the smoke cleared, Sister Maria stood untouched in a perfect circle of ash, adjusting her habit.
"Amen,"
she concluded, making the sign of the cross with brass knuckles that glowed cherry red. Galrin watched the replay 17 times. Each viewing made less sense than the last. "How?" he whispered. "How are they winning?" Juraven, the 4-armed referee, shrugged all 4 shoulders simultaneously. "Technically, they're following the rules. There's nothing that says you can't baptize someone with napalm." "They're making a mockery of our traditions."
They're making us rich,
Jurek countered, showing him the streaming numbers.
Viewership is up 8,000%. The betting pools have never been higher. Someone just paid 6 million credits for Brick's sweat towel.
Before Galrin could respond, an alarm blared. "What now?" he groaned.
The Earth combatant designated Roach has. Sir, he's disappeared.
Disappeared?
He was scheduled for Arena 3 against the Crimson Destroyer. When the match started, he was simply gone.
Galrin's eye twitched. "Find him! Find him now!" 3 hours later, they found Roach in the sub-basement playing cards with the maintenance crew. "Yo!" he called out as security dragged him back. "You guys know your ventilation system connects to all the arenas? Wild design choice." The Crimson Destroyer had been found unconscious in Arena 3, having tripped over a ceremonial skull that forensics determined was actually a bowling ball painted white. The slip had sent the champion careening into his own acid trap. "I don't understand," the Destroyer mumbled from his medical bed. "He wasn't even there. How do you lose to someone who isn't even there?" Roach, for his part, seemed genuinely confused by the attention. "What? It's like my mom always said. Me, Joe, you can't lose if you don't play." Wait, that might have been about the lottery. Or marriage. Actually, she said a lot of things after the accident with the toaster. But nothing prepared the galaxy for Dottie. 5'1" of concentrated Latina fury, she walked into Arena 6 like she owned it, had the deed, and was about to raise rent. Her opponent, a Zarathian spine ripper 3 times her size, took one look at her and laughed. "This is Earth's warrior? This tiny—" The rest of his sentence became a gurgle as Dottie moved. Not teleported, moved with the kind of efficiency that made security cameras give up and go home. One moment she was standing still, the next she was on the alien's shoulders. Her thighs locked around what passed for its neck. "Orale, pendejo," she hissed. "You know what we call things 3 times our size in Arizona? Practice!" The sound that followed would haunt xenobiologists for generations. Part crunch, part tear, all nightmare. When Dottie finally stood, she was holding something that looked important. The spine ripper was not. She examined her trophy with professional interest. "Huh, you guys keep your spines on the outside. Weird flex, but okay." The arena fell silent. Then from somewhere in the alien crowd, slow clapping began. It spread like wildfire until the entire stadium shook with applause. Dottie bowed, flicking alien blood from her hands. "Y'all got any cerveza in this place? That shit was thirsty work." In his viewing chamber, High Overseer Galrin Veth experienced his first migraine in 300 years. "Sir," his assistant ventured carefully, "the human merchandise is selling out. Team Beef t-shirts, Sister Maria prayer candles, Roach survival guides, and, sir, 17 different species have applied to immigrate to Arizona." "This is impossible," Galrin muttered. "They're not following any known combat doctrine. They're not even following their own combat doctrine. It's just chaos." Juravan studied the replay of Dottie's match for the 12th time.
You know what I think? I think that's the point. Every species in this tournament has spent millennia perfecting their fighting styles, creating rigid systems following patterns.
And
humans apparently never got that memo. They're not trying to win properly. They're just trying to win.
On the screens, Brick was teaching alien children how to perform the People's Elbow, while Sister Maria blessed energy drinks and Roach sold authentic Earth combat secrets that were clearly just Florida Man headlines. Dottie had started a knife-fighting workshop that had a waiting list longer than some planets' constitutions. "They're making us look like fools," Galrin said.
No,
Jura corrected, a strange smile playing at her lips.
"They're just making us look boring. And in this business, that's so much worse."
The tournament had 3 more rounds, 3 more chances for order to be restored, for tradition to triumph over chaos. The Brawl Nebula had never seen anything like the transformation that swept through it over the next 3 cycles. What had been a monument to disciplined violence became something else entirely. Alien teenagers prowled the corridors with freshly shaved mohawks and temporary tattoos of Brick Samson flexing over Earth's continents. Bootleg recordings of Sister Maria's combat sermons played from every speaker, mixing scripture with profanity in ways that would make angels weep. And the memes, dear God, the memes. When you trip over nothing and win the match, plastered over Roach's bewildered face, had somehow become the galaxy's most used reaction image. Dottie's spine removal technique had spawned 17 different dance crazes, and one unfortunately popular dating app called Spine Finder. High Overseer Galrin Veth stood in his chamber, watching humanity's influence spread through his tournament like a grease fire in a kitchen staffed by blindfolded pyromaniacs.
"Sir," his assistant said, "the next round of matchups are set. The Earth team will face—"
"I know," Galrin interrupted.
The betting odds—"
"Are irrelevant. These are our champions. The pride of the Death Worlds. They will restore order to this chaos." Somewhere in the galaxy, the universe laughed. "All right, listen up, maggots." Brick Samson stood before his team in what passed for Earth's ready room, a janitor's closet they'd liberated and filled with energy drinks, protein bars, and a concerning amount of spray tan.
"We made it to the semifinals."
He paused, wincing as his back made a sound like bubble wrap in a blender.
"That means the freaks we're fighting now, they're the real deal. The cream of the crop. The— Jesus Christ!"
Sister Maria had just injected something into his neck.
"Shut up and hold still. It's holy water mixed with cortisone. Mostly cortisone, some holy water. Look, I prayed over it. It counts."
"Your back's fucked," Dottie observed from where she was sharpening a collection of objects that definitely weren't regulation.
"You keep wrestling like you're 25, but you're what, 40?
39, Brick protested, and 3/4. "Well, I'm just saying," Roach added, not looking up from his deck of cards. "Maybe we should have a strategy beyond hit them really hard."
"Strategy?" Brick scoffed. "Son, I've won titles in organizations that don't exist anymore because I hit people too hard. I've been banned from countries that aren't on maps. My signature move is literally just jumping on people." "And it's worked great,"
Maria said, prepping another syringe of questionable contents.
"But Daddy's right. You're held together with duct tape and spite at this point."
Brick was about to argue when the door exploded inward. Juraven, the four-armed referee, ducked through the opening.
Interesting decorating choices,"
she observed, taking in the wrestling posters, religious paraphernalia, survival gear, and what appeared to be an entire wall of Arizona license plates.
"You here to DQ us for something?"
Dottie asked, not bothering to hide the knife she was sharpening.
No, I'm here to warn you."
Jura's expression was grim.
"The Overseers pulled out all the stops. Your opponents aren't just champions. They're specifically chosen to counter each of you."
"Counter us? Ha 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 ha! Lady, my whole thing is running away. How do you counter that?"
"The apex predator of Ether 442b has hunted species across 17 galaxies. It can track prey through dimensional shifts. Running won't save you."
Roach's cards scattered across the floor. "Well, shit!"
"The Magnetar Warlord can control electromagnetic fields," Jura continued. "Every metal object becomes a weapon. Every electronic device, a liability."
Brick looked down at his championship belt, then at his metal knee brace, then at the titanium pins in his spine.
"Shit." "The purity of Zen is a psychic entity that feeds on doubt and fear. It's destroyed entire civilizations by making them lose faith in themselves."
Sister Maria clutched her rosary tighter.
"Let me guess, it's my dance partner?" "And the Devourer of Hope? Fought in 9,000 matches, never been touched, never been wounded. It said looking into its eyes shows you exactly how you'll die." "Sounds like my ex-boyfriend,"
Dottie muttered.
"All right, so we're fucked. Why warn us?"
Jura was quiet for a moment.
Because you're the most interesting thing to happen to this tournament in centuries. And because, she looked almost embarrassed, because I have money on you idiots.
How much? Roach asked.
My ship, my house, my entire collection of vintage Earth movies.
You bet your vintage Earth movies on us? Brick gasped. That's beautiful.
I'm having second thoughts,
Jura admitted.
but the galaxy's watching. Whatever happens next, make it memorable.
She left through the hole she'd made, leaving Team Earth to contemplate their mortality. So, Roach said after a long silence, anyone else thinking about that dimensional shift tracking thing? Because I'm thinking about it a lot.
We're not running,
Brick declared.
we're Team Earth. We're...
His back seized up mid-speech, dropping him to his knees.
We're completely fucked,
Maria finished, already moving to help him.
but when has that ever stopped us?
The Magnetar warlord looked like someone had crossbred a silverback gorilla with a junkyard and given the result 20 years of parental abuse. Fragments of metal orbited its body in complex patterns, each piece singing with magnetic resonance. Brick Sampson stood across from it, having left his belt, brace, and most of his dignity in the locker room. He wore only his Stars and Stripes wrestling trunks and what he called his game face, but what others called severe steroid-induced constipation.
Citizens of the galaxy,
The announcer's voice boomed.
witness now the crushing of Earth's pretender by the Master of Magnetism.
Master of Magnetism?
Brick muttered.
That's copyright infringement, brother.
The bell rang. The warlord raised one massive hand, and every metal object in a 50-foot radius became a projectile. Barriers, cameras, someone's prosthetic leg all flew toward Brick in a tsunami of shrapnel. Brick did the only thing that made sense. He ran straight at it.
America!
He roared, diving under the metal storm. The warlord, who had spent centuries fighting opponents who retreated from his power, hadn't expected someone to close distance. Brick's shoulder caught it in what humans called the solar plexus, and what the warlord species called the fifth ventral consciousness node. The impact sent both fighters tumbling, metal debris raining around them like expensive confetti. The German suplex that followed defied several laws of physics and at least one treaty. The warlord's head cratered the arena floor while its magnetic field went haywire, attracting every loose object into a swirling vortex above them.
And speaking of America,
Brick continued, somehow maintaining his grip despite his spine screaming in 12 languages,
let me introduce you to the Freedom Slam.
He lifted the warlord again, an act that should have been impossible given their weight difference and his destroyed back. But Brick Sampson had been doing the impossible since he'd convinced a WWE executive that a finishing move called the Second Amendment was family-friendly. The slam shook the entire arena. The magnetic field collapsed. Metal rained down like the world's most dangerous slot machine payout. When the dust cleared, Brick stood victorious, 1 foot on the unconscious warlord's chest. Then his back gave out completely and he collapsed beside his opponent.
I'm fine,
He wheezed to the medical team.
just need some ice and a new spine, and maybe some of those drugs that make you see through time.
The crowd went wild. Someone started a USA chant, despite 90% of them not knowing what those letters meant. 60 light-years away, a bald eagle shed a tear. Sister Maria faced the purity of Zen in Arena 9, which had been decorated for the occasion with symbols from every major religion in the galaxy. The Overseer's idea of psychological warfare. The purity itself was beautiful, in the way nuclear explosions were beautiful, awe-inspiring and absolutely catastrophic for your health. It floated above the arena floor, a geometric impossibility of light and shadow that hurt to perceive directly. I know your doubts. It spoke directly into her mind. You lost your faith when the Vatican's AI achieved consciousness and declared itself the digital pope. You turned to violence because prayer failed you.
Wrong,
Maria said, pulling out her brass knuckles.
I turn to violence because prayer is just asking nicely, and sometimes you need to ask firmly, with your fists, in someone's face.
You cannot strike a being of pure thought.
Watch me.
She threw the Molotov cocktail. Not at the purity, that would have been stupid. She threw it at the religious symbols surrounding the arena. They burst into flame with enthusiasm that suggested someone had soaked them all in accelerant beforehand. What are you doing?
Making a point.
Maria pulled out more bottles.
You feed on doubt, right? Well, here's the thing about faith. It's not about having no doubts. It's about having doubts and believing anyway. It's about knowing the universe is vast and cold and terrifying and still choosing to light one tiny candle.
She threw another bottle, then another. The arena became a ring of fire.
Or in my case, several large candles, Molotov candles, whatever.
The purity writhed, its perfect form flickering. This proves nothing. You still doubt. I can feel it.
Of course I doubt. Ha ha ha!
Maria laughed, advancing through the flames.
I doubt everything. I doubt God has a plan. I doubt the universe makes sense. I doubt this haircut was a good choice. But you know what I don't doubt?
She pulled out the largest bottle yet, the one labeled Communion Wine Extra Proof.
I don't doubt that sometimes, just sometimes, the universe puts you exactly where you need to be. Like here, with you and a lot of fire.
You cannot.
The power of doubt compels you.
Maria screamed, hurling the bottle.
The power of doubt compels you to catch these hands.
The explosion was visible from orbit. When the flames died down, the purity of Zen was found in corporeal form, for the first time in its existence. Unconscious and sporting what would become the galaxy's most famous black eye. Sister Maria stood over it, clothes singed but spirit intact.
Let us pray,
she said to the stunned crowd.
Dear Lord, thank you for this victory. Thank you for fire. And thank you for whatever chemical Brick uses in his spray tan, because that stuff is apparently super flammable. Amen.
The apex predator of Ether 442b didn't look like much. That was the point. Evolution had crafted it into the perfect hunter. Medium height, forgettable features, the kind of thing you'd pass on the street without a second glance. Until it started moving. Roach stood in Arena 12, sweating through his third shirt. He tried hiding in the vents, sealed, under the floor, reinforced, and behind the referee, who had firmly told him to stop being a little bitch. So, he said to the predator, you come here often? The predator tilted its head, studying him. When it spoke, its voice was like whispers in an empty house. You cannot run. I have hunted the shimmer beings of Andromeda. I have tracked the phase shifters through 17 dimensions. I have found prey that only existed as probability waves. Cool. Roach backed away slowly. Counter-argument, what if I just, didn't? Didn't what? Any of this. What if I just didn't participate in this whole thing? Philosophically speaking, can you hunt someone who refuses to acknowledge the hunt is happening? The predator paused. In 9,000 years of hunting, no prey had ever tried philosophical debate as an escape strategy. That's not how hunting works. Says who? Roach pulled out his cards, shuffling nervously. Let me show you something. Pick a card. I'm not picking a card. I'm going to hunt you. Right, but pick a card first. Trust me, it's relevant. The predator, despite itself, found its hand reaching out. It selected a card. Great! Now, put it back. Roach shuffled again. See? Hunting is all about patterns, right? Tracking, predicting. But what if your prey has no patterns? What if they're just chaos? He threw the entire deck into the air. Cards fluttered down like snow. Your card was the 7 of hearts, Roach said. The predator looked at the card in its hand. 7 of hearts. How did you? Is your refrigerator running? Roach asked. What? I don't have a... Because you better go catch it, Roach yelled, throwing a smoke bomb he'd been palming. The arena filled with dense smoke. The predator's enhanced senses, designed to track through any condition, went haywire. Not because the smoke was special, it was dollar store quality at best, but because Roach had mixed it with Brick's spray tan, Sister Maria's communion wine, Dottie's homemade hot sauce, every cologne sample from the gift shop, what might have been antifreeze. The sensory overload was like trying to track a single voice in a stadium full of vuvuzelas. The predator stumbled, its perfect hunting instincts shorting out. When the smoke cleared, Roach was gone. "Impossible!" the predator roared, scanning the area. "No one escapes the apex predator!" "Yo!" came a voice from above. "You might want to move!" The predator looked up to see Roach clinging to the arena's ceiling, like the world's sweatiest spider. He was holding something. "Is that a bowling ball?" "Nah," Roach said, letting go. "It's a ceremonial skull." The impact was instant karma for every horror movie where the victim trips while running. The predator went down hard, its head ringing like a church bell at Easter service. Roach dropped from the ceiling, landing badly and immediately pulling something in his ankle. "Ow! Oh, fuck! Okay, that looked cooler in my head." He limped over to the unconscious predator. "You want to know the secret to beating a perfect hunter? Be imperfect prey. Be so weird, so unpredictable, so absolutely batshit that their instincts don't know what to do with you." He paused. "Also, always carry a bowling ball. That's just good life advice." Dottie's match was scheduled last, and by the time it started, the entire galaxy was watching. The previous victories had been shocking, amusing, impossible, but everyone knew this was where Earth's run ended. The Devourer of Hope had never been touched in 9,000 matches. It had ended civilizations with a glance. Its very presence drained the will to fight from opponents. Champions had forfeit rather than face it. Dottie walked into the arena eating a churro.
"Sorry I'm late,"
she said, not sounding sorry at all.
"Lines at the concession stand were stupid long. You'd think a place this fancy would have a better crowd control."
The Devourer stood motionless in the center of the arena. It was tall, angular, wrapped in shadows that moved independently of any light source. When it spoke, the temperature dropped 20 degrees. "Look into my eyes, child. See your death." Dottie looked. She took another bite of churro.
"Huh, diabetes. Didn't see that coming."
She shrugged.
"Anyway, we doing this or what?"
The arena held its breath. No one had ever been unaffected by the Devourer's death sight. Champions had gone mad, fled screaming, turned their weapons on themselves rather than continue. Dottie finished her churro and started stretching. "How?" The Devourer's voice crackled slightly. "How are you not afraid?"
"Buddy,"
Dottie said, rolling her shoulders.
"I'm from Arizona. I've seen scarier things in my backyard. You ever have a javelina charge you at 3 a.m.? You ever tried to get a scorpion out of your boot while running late for work? You ever had to explain to your insurance company that your car was totaled by a saguaro cactus that came out of nowhere?"
"I have ended worlds."
"And I've survived Black Friday at Walmart. We all got our traumas."
The Devourer moved first, shadows lashing out like whips. Dottie flowed around them with the casual grace of someone who'd learned to dodge by playing The Floor is Lava with actual lava. Arizona summers were no joke.
"You're fast,"
she admitted, producing knives from somewhere.
"But here's the thing about being untouchable for 9,000 matches."
She threw the knives. The Devourer dodged, shadows coiling for a counterattack.
"Means you never learned what to do when someone touches you anyway."
The knives had been a distraction. Dottie was already inside the Devourer's guard, her hand wrapping around what might charitably be called its throat.
"Primera lección,"
she said conversationally.
"Everything can be grabbed."
Her other hand found something that might have been a pressure point, if the Devourer had normal anatomy. It wasn't, and it didn't, but Dottie made it work anyway.
"Segunda lección. Everything that can be grabbed can be twisted."
The sound that followed would haunt xenobiologists alongside the ones from her first match. The Devourer's perfect record of 9,000 matches ended with it discovering what pain meant.
And tercera lección?
Dottie continued, now somehow on the creature's back, applying a chokehold that shouldn't work on something that didn't breathe.
Everything that can be twisted can be broken.
Wait! The Devourer gasped, actually gasped, despite not having lungs. I yield! I yield! The arena erupted. 9,000 matches, 3 million years, ended by a 5'1" woman from Arizona who treated cosmic horror like a minor inconvenience. Dottie released her hold, patting the Devourer on what might have been its head.
Good match, and you're kind of cute. You're letting me know if you want to go grab something to eat after all this.
In his viewing chamber, High Overseer Galrin Veth sat in perfect stillness. His assistant had fled an hour ago. Juraven stood beside him, arms crossed.
Say it,
she said. No.
Say it.
I refuse.
They swept the semifinals. They're going to the finals. Say it.
Galrin's eye twitched. Fine, you were right. They're interesting.
And?
And they've made the tournament profitable beyond our wildest calculations.
And?
And I hate them with the burning passion of 1,000 supernovas.
That's fair,
Jura conceded.
But you know what has to happen now?
Galrin stood, his full 8 feet of height casting long shadows. The finals. Earth versus the reigning champions, the Deathworld Alliance.
You could just let them win,
Jura suggested.
Recognize Earth as a high-tier death world. Everyone goes home happy.
No. Galrin's voice was iron. They've made a mockery of our traditions, turned our sacred tournament into a circus. There must be consequences.
What kind of consequences?
Galrin smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Did you know, referee, that Earth's entry was technically illegal? Their paperwork was filed incorrectly. A clerical error, but rules are rules.
You wouldn't.
Either they forfeit the finals, or Earth faces complete quarantine. No trade, no travel, no contact with the galactic community. His smile widened. Unless, of course, they can beat me personally. Champions challenge. Ancient law. Jura stared at him.
That law hasn't been invoked in a millennium, and you're not a champion, you're the overseer.
I was a champion once. The title is eternal. He turned to the screens showing Team Earth celebrating. Make the announcement, Galrin ordered. Let's see how Earth's chaos fares against true order. Jura left, already calculating new odds. The smart money was on Galrin. 8 feet of trained warrior against humans held together by spite and energy drinks. But then again, the smart money had been wrong about everything else so far. The announcement hit the Brawl Nebula like a tactical nuke wrapped in bureaucracy. Citizens of the galaxy, the Overseer's voice echoed through every speaker. It has come to my attention that Earth's entry was filed incorrectly. Subsection J of Form 42B requires biometric confirmation from a planetary representative. Earth provided a YouTube link. In their ready room, Team Earth exchanged glances.
Was that my bad?
Brick asked.
Because I definitely sent them my highlight reel instead of whatever they wanted.
Therefore, Galrin continued, Earth must forfeit the finals or face complete galactic quarantine. Unless... The pause was theatrical. Galrin had practiced it. Unless one of Earth's champions can defeat me in single combat. The Champions Challenge. Ancient law. The broadcast ended. Silence filled the room like awkward elevator music. So, Roach said finally, who wants to tell the 8-foot murder machine that ancient law is just peer pressure from dead people?
We can't forfeit,
Sister Maria said.
Earth needs this. The trade opportunities alone.
Screw trade opportunities, Dottie interrupted.
They said we couldn't make it past round 1. They said we were a joke. They said my spray tan looked unnatural, Brick added, offended. It's very natural. It's made from organic compounds.
Pretty sure those compounds are carcinogens, Roach muttered.
Organic carcinogens. Focus!
Maria snapped.
One of us has to fight him, but who?
They looked at each other. Brick's back was held together with prayer and performance-enhancing drugs. Maria had used up most of her Molotov cocktails. Dottie had been collecting injuries like Pokemon cards, hiding them behind sheer stubbornness. I'll do it, Roach said. The room burst into laughter. Even Roach laughed, wiping tears from his eyes. No, seriously, he continued, which just made everyone laugh harder. Stop! I mean it!
Roach,
Brick wheezed.
brother, I respect the courage, but you can't even do a push-up.
I threw my back out reaching for the TV remote last week, Roach admitted. But think about it. Who else is going to do it? You can barely walk, Maria's at a fire, Dottie's...
Fine,
Dottie lied reflexively. Lying about being fine? I'm the only one who hasn't taken serious damage because I haven't seriously fought anyone.
That's not a qualification,
Maria protested.
That's the opposite of a qualification.
Is it, though? Roach pulled out his cards, shuffling them thoughtfully. Look at our wins. Did we win because we're stronger, faster, better trained? Nah, we won because we're weird. We're unpredictable. We're the thing their combat training never prepared them for.
You want to weird him to death?
Brick asked. I want to roach him to death, Roach said. Look, I've been running my whole life. Running from debt collectors, from consequences, from that one time I accidentally joined a cult thinking it was a timeshare presentation. But maybe it's time to run towards something for once.
That's beautiful,
Sister Maria said.
Also deeply stupid, but beautiful. It's suicide,
Dottie stated flatly. Probably, Roach agreed. But if I'm gonna die, I'd rather die as Earth's champion than live knowing I let you down. You magnificent psychos have become the closest thing to family I've got. Plus, I already bet all my money on myself at 850 million to 1 odds.
You bet on yourself?
Brick gasped. Of course I bet on myself. Have you seen these odds? If I win, I can pay off my student loans.
You went to college?
Maria asked. Online University of Phoenix. Turns out that a degree in theoretical philosophy with a minor in blackjack wasn't as useful as advertised. A long moment passed. Then Dottie stood, walked over to Roach, and punched him in the shoulder hard enough to leave a bruise. Don't die, pendejo. I already called dibs on killing you for stealing my empanadas last week. Those were yours? I thought they were communal empanadas.
There's no such thing as communal empanadas.
Sister Maria pulled out her last bottle of communion wine.
Take this, for luck.
I can't fight drunk, Roach protested.
It's not for drinking,
she said.
It's for opportunities.
Brick struggled to his feet, groaning like a haunted house's sound system. He removed his championship belt, the one he'd brought from Earth, the one he'd defended in gas station parking lots and abandoned warehouses, the one that meant more to him than any rational person could understand. Wear this, he said, strapping it around Roach's waist. When you're in that ring, you're not just Roach. You're the WWE Intercontinental Hardcore Champion of Earth. Retired, unofficial. Probably not legally binding, but still. Roach looked down at the gaudy belt, then at his teammates, his family, his ridiculous, violent, beautiful family. If I die, he said, tell everyone I went out swinging. You won't swing once, Dottie predicted. Then tell him I went out running, with style. The finals arena was the crown jewel of the Brawl Nebula. A coliseum that could hold 1 million spectators, and did. Every seat filled, every screen tuned in, every betting pool holding its breath. The smart money was on Galrin. The stupid money was also on Galrin. The only money on Roach came from Team Earth, Juraven's mortgage, and a surprising number of small bets from maintenance workers, janitors, and one cafeteria lady who'd seen Roach tip 300% on a coffee. High Overseer Galrin Veth entered first, and the crowd went silent with respect. 8 feet of obsidian perfection, moving with the grace of a species that had evolved across billions of years specifically to end lives. He wore ceremonial armor that had never been scratched, carried weapons that had ended dynasties. Then Roach's entrance music hit.
Is that yakety sax?
Someone in the crowd asked. Roach emerged from the tunnel, running. Not dramatically, but like someone who'd just remembered they'd left the oven on. He wore Brick's championship belt over cargo shorts and a t-shirt that read, "I'm not a player, I just crush a lot." And in smaller letters down below, at Connect 4. He tripped on the entrance ramp, rolled, somehow turned it into a cartwheel, landed in a split that definitely wasn't intentional and definitely hurt. "Meant to do that," he wheezed, struggling to his feet. "All part of the plan." Galrin watched this display with the expression of someone discovering their Nobel Prize acceptance speech had been replaced with a grocery list. "This," he said slowly, "is Earth's champion." "Yo!" Roach gave finger guns. "Big fan of your work. The whole obsidian skin of death thing? Very intimidating. Really selling the final boss vibe. I have killed warriors who trained for longer than your bloodline has existed." "Cool, cool. I trained for about 15 minutes. Brick showed me a YouTube video of something called Drunken Master. Pretty sure it was supposed to be inspirational, but honestly, it just made me want noodles." The referee, not Jorah, who'd been recused for emotional investment, looked between them like a kindergarten teacher watching one child with scissors and another eating paste. Are we ready to begin?" "Hold up," Roach said, pulling out his deck of cards. "We got time for a quick game? I'm feeling lucky." "This is a death match," Galrin roared. "Right, but like a quick game though, 5-card draw, Texas Hold'em, go fish? Begin the match." The bell rang. Galrin moved like lightning made of murder. The space where Roach had been standing exploded in fragments. Had been. Roach was already running, arms flailing, screaming at a pitch that made dogs 3 systems away bark in sympathy. "Nope, nope, 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 nope. Stand and fight, coward. Hard pass on that, thanks." The crowd watched in bewilderment as the chase continued. Galrin, moving with millennia of combat training, Roach running like a madman being chased by bees, taxes, and his ex-wife's lawyer simultaneously.
This is embarrassing,
someone muttered. "Huh, which one?" another asked. Because that was the thing. As the chase continued, it became increasingly clear that Galrin, 8 feet of engineered death, couldn't catch a panicking human in cargo shorts. Every time he cornered Roach, the human would do something inexplicable. Dive between his legs, climb a wall, and fall off in a different direction. Once, memorably, he just laid down and played dead, causing Galrin to overshoot entirely. "Fight me!" Galrin bellowed, his perfect composure cracking. "I am fighting," Roach yelled back, now somehow on the arena's lighting rig. "This is how humans fight, with cardio and cowardice." He dropped Sister Maria's bottle. Not at Galrin, that would have been too direct. He dropped it on the arena floor where it shattered, spreading its contents in a puddle of liquid that smelled like bad decisions and good memories. Galrin charged through it, though, focused on his prey. His foot hit the alcohol. His other foot hit the floor. His back hit the ground. For a moment, the universe held its breath. The supreme warrior of the galaxy's most prestigious tournament had just slipped on the cosmic equivalent of a banana peel. "Oh, shit," Roach said from above. You okay down there? Galrin tried to rise. The liquid was everywhere now, making the floor treacherous. His perfect balance, honed over centuries, meant nothing on a surface slicker than a politician's promises. He fell again. The crowd made a sound. Not a cheer, not a boo, but the collective noise of a million beings trying to process what they were seeing. Roach dropped from the lighting rig, landing badly because of course he did. He limped over to where Galrin was struggling to stand, pulling out his cards. "So," he said conversationally, "about that game." This is impossible," Galrin gasped, his third attempt to rise ending with his face meeting the floor. "I am the pinnacle of evolution, the perfect warrior." "Yeah, but you see, that's your problem." Roach sat cross-legged just out of reach. "You're perfect. You trained for perfect opponents, perfect battles, perfect victories." He started dealing cards onto the wet floor. "But life ain't perfect, man. Life is slipping on wet floors. Life is cargo shorts at formal events. Life is ordering a cheeseburger at a vegan restaurant and somehow getting a salad made entirely of bacon. That makes no sense." "Exactly!" Roach slapped the floor for emphasis, splashing more liquid around. "Nothing makes sense. The universe is chaos pretending to have rules. And you know what beats a perfect warrior every time?" Galrin, now flat on his back and thoroughly soaked in Sister Maria's communion wine, waited for the answer. "An imperfect idiot with a deck of cards and a complete disregard for dignity." Roach stood up, pulled out a lighter. Where had he even been keeping that? And flicked it on. "Now, I'm not going to set you on fire," he said quickly as Galrin's eyes widened. "That would be wrong. Also, I'm pretty sure that's Dottie's thing and she'd kill me for gimmick infringement." He dropped the lighter on a dry patch of floor, safely away from the alcohol. "But here's the thing about being perfect. It means you got something to lose. Me? I got nothing to lose. No reputation, no dignity, no cartilage in my left knee. I'm the guy who accidentally joined a cult thinking it was a timeshare presentation twice. You can't beat someone who's already at rock bottom, because every direction is up." Galrin tried one more time to rise. His hand found purchase on something. Roach's dropped cards. They slipped. He fell. His head hit the floor with a sound like a gong being struck by another, smaller gong. The referee started counting. 1, 2, 3. "This is ridiculous," Galrin mumbled in the floor. "Defeated by incompetence." 4, 5, 6. "Hey," Roach said, sitting back down, "if it makes you feel better, I don't think it's incompetence. I think it's art. 7, 8, 9. Really stupid art. 10. Winner! Earth!" The arena erupted. Not into cheers. Those would come later. First came the silence of disbelief. Then the whispers of confusion. Then the gradual realization that they'd just witnessed history. Stupid history. Roach helped Galrin sit up. The overseer looked at him with an expression that cycled through rage, disbelief, and something that might have been respect if you squinted. "You," Galrin said slowly, "are the worst warrior I have ever faced." "Thanks." "That wasn't a compliment. Compliments are in the eye of the beholder." Galrin looked around the arena, at the crowds on their feet, at the screens showing replays of his defeat by floor liquor, at the championship belt still somehow around Roach's waist. "Earth is recognized as a high-tier death world," he said formally, then quietly. "God help us all." "Hey," Roach grinned. "Want to see a card trick?" "No." "Too bad. Pick a card." 6 months later. The Burger Nebula, formerly still the Brawl Nebula, but nobody called it that anymore, had changed. Where once austere training halls stood, now there were gift shops selling "I slipped and all I got was this stupid t-shirt" merchandise. The dignified restaurants had been replaced with something called a food court, which served Earth delicacies like pizza, questionable sushi, and something called a turducken that violated several galactic food safety laws. Brick Sampson had his own wrestling promotion, teaching alien warriors the art of sports entertainment. His students included 3 former champions who'd traded battlefield honor for spandex and storylines. His back still hurt, but the alien medical technology helped. Plus, his new signature move, the intergalactic elbow, was easier on his spine. Sister Maria ran an interfaith church gym called Prayers and Suplexes, where beings from across the galaxy came to find enlightenment and sick gains. Her sermons were live-streamed to billions, mixing scripture with profanity in ways that somehow made both more meaningful. The Vatican's digital pope had officially pardoned her, mainly because her fundraising numbers were astronomical. Dottie had been named honorary warlord of 12 different planets and had turned down 14 marriage proposals from various nobility. She ran self-defense courses that had a waiting list measured in years. Her autobiography, Size Doesn't Matter When You're Terrifying, was a bestseller in 40 languages, none of them human. And Roach?
President Morales?
His assistant said, entering the office.
The Galactic Council is here for your meeting.
Roach looked up from his desk, where he was building a house of cards. As the newly elected president of the Galactic Federation, a position he'd won by virtue of nobody else wanting to deal with the paperwork, he had certain responsibilities. "Tell them I'll be right there," he said, adding another card to his structure. "Just need to finish this."
Sir, they've been waiting for 3 hours.
And they can wait 5 more minutes. This is art, Jennifer.
Jennifer, not her real name, but Roach couldn't pronounce the clicking sounds, sighed with all 7 of her respiratory organs.
Sir, you're supposed to be addressing the economic crisis on Ether 44-2B.
Oh, I solved that.
Roach didn't look up from his cards.
Told them to try turning their economy off and back on again. Worked for my Wi-Fi.
That's not how economies work.
It is now. Presidential decree, executive order, whatever sounds more official.
Jennifer left, presumably to update her resume. A moment later, Juraven entered without knocking, a perk of being the one who'd bet her house on him and won.
How's the most accidentally powerful being in the galaxy?
She asked.
Stressed, Roach admitted. Turns out when you make someone president as a joke, they still have to do president stuff. Do you know how many forms I have to sign daily? It's like at least 12.
Try 600.
That's basically 12 times a lot.
Jura laughed, settling into a chair that adjusted itself to her 4-armed frame.
You could always resign.
Can't. Dottie said she'd kill me if I made her look bad. Brick cried when I won, actual tears of joy. And Sister Maria called it God's most confusing plan yet, and made me promise to see it through.
And, you care what they think?
They're family.
Roach carefully placed the final card on his house.
You don't let family down, even if it means accidentally running the galaxy.
The house of cards stood complete, a perfect, fragile monument to improbability. Then the door burst open. A panicked aide rushed in.
President Morales, the Zargoth Empire is threatening war over trade routes.
Roach looked at his card house, looked at the aide, looked at Jura.
Get me the Zargoth Emperor on video call, he said.
What are you gonna do?
Jura asked.
Teach him 3-card Monty. By the time we're done, he'll have bet his entire fleet on finding the Red Queen.
That's your solution to interstellar war card tricks?
You got a better idea?
Jura considered this.
No, I really don't.
The video screen flickered to life, showing the snarling face of Emperor Zargoth the Destroyer, scourge of 7 systems, ender of worlds. Yo! Roach waved. Want to see something cool? And somewhere in the chaos that followed, as Earth's influence spread through the galaxy like a benevolent virus, as alien children learned to suplex, as theological debates included the phrase holy hand grenade, as the concept of Florida Man became a philosophical movement, the universe learned an important lesson. Never underestimate the power of being too weird to fail. The house of cards fell, scattering across the presidential desk. Roach started to build another one. After all, if there was one thing humanity had taught the galaxy, it was this. When you're playing with a full deck, it doesn't matter if all your cards are jokers. Sometimes that's exactly what you need. Finn. Author's note. The Galactic Tourism Board would like to remind visitors that Earth is now classified as a high-tier death world, and travel insurance is mandatory. Side effects of Earth's visits may include sudden urges to suplex authority figures, philosophical crisis about banana peels, uncontrollable use of finger guns, and the inability to take anything seriously ever again. The Tourism Board takes no responsibility for visitors who return home with mohawks, brass knuckles, or a belief that cargo shorts are formal wear. Florida remains off-limits to all beings who value their sanity. Thank you for choosing Earth, where the gravity isn't the only thing that's dense.